Welcome to Insights. I'm Adam Rivers.
And I'm Sarah Collins. In this episode, we'll reflect carefully on the Quran verse by verse, focusing on wording, context, and coherence.
So, to really grasp the weight of what we are looking at today, we have to start by zooming out just a little bit.
Yeah, just to set the stage.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We are focusing on verse 5 of Surah Al-Baqarah. And the first thing to really understand is that this verse does not exist in a vacuum. It is deeply embedded in a very specific flow of ideas.
It acts as a monumental capstone.
A capstone, yes,
Yeah.
perfectly said. If you look at the verses immediately preceding this one, you see this meticulous, almost brick-by-brick construction of a specific type of human personality.
Mm-hmm.
The Quran has just finished describing the believers, those who have faith in the unseen, those who establish prayer, those who spend out of what they have been provided, who believe in the revelation sent down, and who possess absolute certainty in the hereafter.
It's an intense list.
It really is. It's a demanding list of qualities. And verse 5 steps in to answer the ultimate, inevitable question. What is the result of living exactly like that?
It really is a tightly woven, incredibly powerful conclusion. It draws a direct, unmistakable line between cause and effect.
Right.
It serves to cap off the profound descriptions of the believers found in the surrounding verses, acting almost like a judge delivering a final verdict.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, because it places a measuring stick right in the hands of the reader. It asks you to weigh yourself. After showing you the architecture of a soul that is tethered to the divine, it reveals the inevitable destination of that soul. It shifts the conversation from the how to the what now.
That transition is what makes it so striking to me. Because I think we have to ask a relatable question here. Is following revelation merely about adopting a set of nice, socially acceptable behaviors? Or does it lead to a tangible, profound transformation in your actual state of being?
That's the core issue, isn't it?
It is. Because it is so incredibly easy to fall into the trap of viewing religion or ethics as just a list of polite customs.
Like a checklist.
Exactly like a checklist.
Right.
We often think, I should be honest, I should give a little charity and I should believe in a higher power because it makes me a good citizen.
Yeah, the bare minimum.
Right. But this verse pushes far past mere social compliance. Today, we are exploring the unbreakable ironclad connection between standing firmly upon guidance and achieving ultimate redefining success.
I love that.
This verse tells us these qualities aren't just psychological decorations. They are the literal engine of human triumph.
Which brings us to the very first word of the verse, setting up that exact standard of triumph. Let's look at the significance of the word Ula'ika.
Okay, let's break that down.
It is a demonstrative pronoun that translates to those. Those are upon guidance. And the choice of that specific word is everything. When you are studying the linguistics of the Quran, you quickly realize there are no wasted syllables.
Not a single one.
Right. It was entirely capable of just using the pronoun hum, which simply means they. It could have efficiently said, they are upon guidance. But it chose not to. It chose to point. It chose to say those.
So why do you think that specific demonstrative pronoun was chosen over simply saying they? Because when you say they, you are just categorizing people. You are putting them in a mental folder. Oh, they are the believers. They are the ones who pray. It feels very close, very ordinary, almost mundane.
Exactly.
But when you use Ula'ika, you are physically or mentally pointing your finger. You are drawing attention to something specific and separate from the immediate surroundings. It completely changes the relationship between the reader and the subject being described.
It does. In classical Arabic, Ula'ika is a plural demonstrative pronoun used to point to something that is at a distance.
Yeah.
But we have to be very careful about how we understand distance here.
Because it's not physical. Right.
Exactly. It does not imply physical distance in a negative or alienating way. It implies a distance of status, of elevation, and of reverence. Imagine painting a picture of an ideal group standing tall on a horizon. They are a model to look up to and actively strive toward, rather than just blending into a generic crowd right next to you. It's as if the verse is saying, lift your head, look up at those individuals, do not confuse them with the ordinary crowd.
That imagery is incredibly powerful because it acts as a mirror for the listener. By placing this ideal group on the horizon and pointing to them with Ula'ika, this deliberate word choice forces a moment of stark personal accountability.
It really stops you in your tracks.
It stops you and it challenges you to ask, am I actively working to be among those people? Or am I standing comfortably far away, just observing their traits like a spectator at a museum without truly adopting them into my own life.
A spectator, yeah, that's exactly how we often treat it.
The word creates a necessary friction. You can't just casually include yourself in the category. You have to earn the right to be among those. It asks you, where exactly do you stand in this picture?
And it refuses to let you look away from that picture because it uses the word twice. Yeah, the verse explicitly states, those are upon guidance, and then immediately repeats, and those are the successful. Why do that? Why not just say, those are upon guidance and are successful?
To save words.
Exactly. But the phrasing in Arabic is so deliberate. This double emphasis firmly locks in two critical concepts. It creates two distinct, undeniable pillars.
Okay.
The first, Ula'ika, locks in the present state of the believer. They are right now upon guidance. The second, Ula'ika, locks in their ultimate destiny. They are the ones who will achieve success.
It's a brilliant structural move because it ensures we understand that the journey and the destination are fundamentally inseparable. It completely destroys the modern tendency to separate the two.
Oh, absolutely.
Today you hear people say, well, the outcome is all that matters. As long as I achieve success, who cares what path I took to get there? That is the justification for every kind of corruption.
The ends justify the means.
Exactly. And on the flip side, you have people who say, I am just on a spiritual journey. I am walking my path. It doesn't matter if it produces any real-world results or ultimate success.
Right.
This verse crushes both arguments. The path itself must be guidance, and that specific path is the only one that yields true success. You cannot separate the vehicle from the destination.
That brings us to the nature of the vehicle itself. Let's analyze the precise preposition used here to describe their relationship with this path. The verse says they are upon guidance. The Arabic word is Allah.
Allah.
Yes. It is vital to contrast this specific wording with other possibilities that were available in the language, like being in guidance or with guidance.
Right, because in would be fiya.
Exactly. In would suggest being surrounded or contained by something, like being in a room or in a state of mind. With, which is ma, would suggest accompaniment, like walking alongside a companion. But Allah paints a completely different, highly structural picture.
Let's make this concrete for the listener. Imagine the difference between living in fluctuating emotions versus standing upon solid ground.
That's a great way to think about it.
If you are in the water of your own desires and societal trends, you are being tossed around like a swimmer in a stormy sea. When the cultural wave pushes left, you go left. When financial fear pushes right, you drift right. You have no anchor.
You're just reacting.
You're just reacting.
Yeah.
But being upon guidance means you have a firm, stable platform beneath your feet. It means that guidance is the actual floor you walk on. It keeps you anchored when the winds of society change. You are elevated above the chaotic, swirling waters of confusion.
But with that elevation comes an inherent responsibility. If you are standing upon an elevated platform, you are required to maintain your balance. It is not a passive state.
That's a really good point.
Guidance in this context is not a passive feeling you just experience. It is not a badge of honor you wear to feel superior to others or an excuse for arrogance. It is a solid foundation you must actively maintain. You have to keep your footing.
Because you can fall.
Exactly. If you get sloppy, if you let your ego take over, you risk slipping off that platform and falling right back into the mud of worldly temptations.
That fundamentally changes how we view being guided. People often think of guidance as a comfy chair you sit in once you've figured things out. Like, I'm guided, now I can relax.
Right, right.
But the preposition Allah tells us it's more like a balance beam or a sturdy ship's deck in the middle of a storm. It demands active engagement. It tells you that this person isn't just floating through life on a cloud of good intentions. They're deliberately planting their feet on a solid framework of ethics and truth every single day.
Every single day.
If they face a business decision where they could cheat to make a quick profit, the platform of guidance demands they hold their ground, even if the wind is howling at them to take the money.
And what exactly are they standing on? Let's turn our attention to the word hudan itself, which means guidance. There's a crucial grammatical detail here that opens up the entire philosophy of this verse.
This is one of my favorite parts.
In Arabic, hudan is presented here as an indefinite noun. It does not have the definite article al in front of it. It doesn't say upon the guidance. It simply says upon guidance. That might seem like a minor technicality, but in the precise linguistic ecosystem of revelation, it is a profound choice.
So why does that grammatical shift matter for us today? I mean, if it said the guidance, it would imply a singular, closed, fully completed package. It would sound like a single textbook you memorize and then you're done.
Yes, a closed book.
But an indefinite noun implies something expansive, continuously flowing and renewing. It shatters the dangerous illusion that guidance is a one-time finish line where you can simply check a box and stop working. It destroys the arrogant mindset of saying, I have achieved guidance, I am now fully guided, I have nothing left to learn or correct.
It shatters that illusion completely. As a person moves through life, they're constantly entering new phases and facing new realities. You face new trials. You might gain new wealth or assume new leadership roles.
Your life changes.
Your life constantly changes. And in each of these new phases, you require fresh, adapted guidance. The guidance you need as a struggling student is entirely different from the guidance you need as a wealthy parent or a CEO.
Well, yeah.
When you are weak, your test is patience. When you become powerful, your test is justice. You need a renewed flow of huda to navigate that. It is an ongoing state of spiritual education and growth, not merely memorizing a set of static facts from your childhood.
It's brilliant because it keeps the believer in a constant state of humility and seeking. The indefinite hudan is like a river. You don't just step into it once and say you are done with water. You have to keep drinking from it as you travel.
I love that river analogy.
You might think you have mastered honesty, but then you are put in a situation where telling the truth might cost you your reputation, and suddenly you realize you need a deeper level of hudan to survive that moment. You're always standing upon it, but what you're standing on is dynamic and alive. It is constantly challenging you to rise to the occasion of your current reality.
And this dynamic living guidance isn't something you generate yourself. Let's unpack the phrase, from their Lord. The verse says they are upon guidance, min rabbihim. First, let's look at the preposition mine, which means from. It acts as an arrow pointing directly away from human ego and straight toward the divine source. It clarifies that this incredible platform of guidance isn't the product of your own brilliant intellect, or your social conditioning, or your evolutionary biology. And then we have to explore the linguistic root of the word rab, which goes far beyond our typical English translations of master or creator.
The word rab is one of the most beautiful and comprehensive words in the language. It signifies nurturing, cultivating, and gently bringing something from a state of weakness into full, robust maturity.
Gently bringing it up.
Yes, it shares a root with the concept of upbringing, the way a parent raises a child or a master gardener tends to a delicate plant. So when the Qur'an says this guidance is from their Lord, it is saying it is from their nurturer. It is a customized, deeply caring curriculum designed to grow your soul.
The psychological impact of that is massive. Understanding this specific phrasing cures two major emotional ailments that plague humanity: arrogance and despair.
Two extremes.
Two very dangerous extremes. Let's look at arrogance first. If you achieve an incredible level of moral success, you are generous, you are disciplined, knowing it is from their Lord, prevents the arrogance of believing your own intellect saved you. You don't get to look down on others and think, I am just intrinsically better than them. You recognize that you were guided, nurtured, and provided for by your Rab.
That instantly kills the ego. And conversely, if you stumble, because being on the platform doesn't mean you never lose your balance, knowing your guidance is from your nurturer prevents despair.
Absolutely.
If guidance was just a rigid test you had to pass entirely on your own merits, a single failure would mean you are doomed. But because you know your nurturer is actively guiding your return, a mistake becomes a moment for correction, not a final condemnation.
A learning moment.
A learning moment. A gardener doesn't burn down the whole orchard because one branch gets a disease. They prune it and treat it. You know your Rab is invested in your growth, which keeps you hopeful, even when you falter.
There is also a beautiful synergy in what comes before and after this phrase. If we look back at the surrounding verses, the descriptions show believers taking intense, deliberate action. They believe in the unseen. They actively establish the prayer. They willingly spend their wealth. These are not passive people waiting for lightning to strike.
They are doing the work.
They are doing the heavy lifting. Yet despite all their hard work, the guidance is ultimately from their Lord. This illustrates that true alignment requires both sincere human effort and divine grace. You do the hard work, you sweat, you discipline yourself, but you remain deeply humble about the source of your light.
It's the perfect antidote to the extremes we see in the world. You have the extreme of total self-reliance, where people think they can manifest their own destiny and conquer the universe entirely by their own will, which leads to burnout and a God complex.
We see that everywhere today.
Everywhere. And you have the other extreme of fatalism, where people say, well, everything is predetermined, so I won't even try. If I'm meant to be guided, it will just happen. This verse perfectly threads the needle. You must establish the prayer and give the charity, but you must constantly acknowledge that the very ability and direction to do those things is a nurturing gift, min rabbihim, from your Lord.
To really lock in the permanence of this state, let's introduce the grammatical structure of the entire phrase. Those are upon guidance from their Lord. In classical Arabic, this is formulated as a nominal sentence.
Let's briefly explain what that means for people who might not know.
Sure. To explain the significance, a verbal sentence begins with a verb and indicates an action happening in time. It might be happening now, or it might have happened in the past, but it is tied to an event. A nominal sentence, however, begins with a noun or pronoun and establishes a state of being.
Bringing these grammar rules down to earth is crucial because, unlike a verbal sentence, which implies a temporary action that starts and stops, like saying they were guided yesterday, a nominal sentence implies stability, permanence, and a lasting state of being.
It's fixed.
It's fixed. It means that for these individuals, being upon guidance isn't just something they do occasionally. It is who they are. The ultimate goal of engaging with revelation is to build an unshakable baseline for your character, rather than chasing fleeting moments of spiritual excitement.
It completely challenges the modern phenomenon of treating spirituality as an emotional high. People go to a retreat or they hear a powerful speaker and they feel a surge of religious emotion.
They get fired up.
They get incredibly fired up. They act differently for a few days and then the verb ends and they go back to their baseline. The Qur'an is not interested in creating spiritual adrenaline junkies. It wants to establish a permanent architecture in your soul. The nominal sentence tells us that the believers have built their house on the platform of guidance. They live there. It is their permanent address.
And because they live there, they reap the ultimate reward. We pivot now to the powerful conclusion of this ayah, and it is those who are the successful. The Arabic is wa ula'ika humu al-muflihun.
There's that repetition again.
Exactly. Here we see the repetition of the pronoun and the introduction of a separating pronoun hum, which serves to restrict the meaning entirely to this group. It essentially says, it is these people and absolutely no one else who are the true embodiment of success.
That is a bold claim.
It is. Think about how modern society typically measures success, because we have to see the contrast. Today's success is measured through aggressive accumulation. Wealth, fame, followers, immediate gratification, the title on your door.
Society tells you that if you have those things, you have won the game regardless of how you got them. But the brilliant linguistic root of al-muflihun heavily contrasts with the Qur'an's definition. The root letters in Arabic are falaha. This root is intrinsically tied to agriculture. A falah in Arabic is a farmer. The verb originally means to cleave, to split, or to plow the earth. It is a word drenched in sweat, dirt, and long-term vision.
The farming analogy is the perfect metaphor for the life of a believer. Farming is the ultimate exercise in delayed gratification and faith. Think about what a farmer actually does. You go out into a hard, unyielding field. You plow the earth, breaking it open, which is exhausting work. You plant a tiny, seemingly insignificant seed.
And then you wait.
You water it, you protect it from weeds and pests, and then you just patiently wait. For weeks or months, you see absolutely nothing above the surface. To someone who doesn't understand farming, you look like a fool pouring water on dirt.
This perfectly mirrors the traits mentioned in the surrounding verses. Believing in the unseen and having certainty in the hereafter is exactly like the farmer trusting the seed under the soil. True success, falah, is an ethical cultivation, not a sudden windfall.
It's not a lottery ticket.
No, it completely rejects the casino capitalism mindset, where success means hitting the jackpot overnight. Al-muflihun are the ones who understand that real success is a slow, deliberate, sometimes painful process of tearing up the hardened soil of your own ego, planting the seeds of revelation, and tending to them every single day.
It forces you to redefine success entirely. If success is farming, then believers are planting seeds of truth, justice, and charity in every interaction they have. They operate with the deep, unshakable conviction that the harvest is guaranteed by their nurturer, even if the world does not offer an immediate reward.
Even if they face hardship?
Right. If you tell the truth in a business deal and lose money because of it, the world calls you a failure. But the Qur'an calls you a falah, a successful farmer, because you just planted a seed of integrity that will yield an eternal harvest. You are playing a much longer game than the people around you.
While the ultimate harvest is beautifully promised in the hereafter, falah also manifests immediately in the internal world of the believer. The verse describes them as successful right now in the present. This isn't just a promise of future paradise. It is a description of their current psychological reality.
That's a profound point.
When you live a life of ethical cultivation, the very first thing that blossoms is your own internal state. The seed sprouts inside your heart before it reaches the sky.
Imagine the immense relief of not having to wear different masks for different people. When your life is built on the guidance of your Lord, you don't have to be one person at work, another person at home, and a third person in secret. You experience freedom from hypocrisy.
Real freedom.
Real freedom. You experience absolute liberation from being enslaved by greed or the suffocating fear of other people's opinions. That internal alignment, the quiet, unshakable peace of knowing you are walking the right path, is the very first taste of true success.
This concept perfectly ties the two halves of this ayah together. Guidance acts as the internal compass, the solid platform you stand on, and success is the lived, fruitful reality of following that compass.
They are completely linked.
Revelation does not merely demand theoretical knowledge. It doesn't want you to just memorize verses and pass a theology exam. It demands that this knowledge blossoms into a transformed, authentic life. If you have all the knowledge of the guidance, but your internal life is a chaotic mess of anxiety and double standards, you haven't reached Falah. The guidance must produce the fruit of inner peace and outward integrity.
Importantly, that outward integrity deeply affects the people around you. The plural pronouns deliberately used throughout this verse are key. The verse talks about their Lord and the successful in the plural. Al-muflihun.
Right, it's not singular.
It does not say he is upon guidance or she's a successful one. Within this worldview, true success is never meant to be an isolated or purely selfish endeavor. It is not an individualistic race where you trample over others to cross the finish line first.
One of the defining characteristics of these people is that they spend out of what we have provided them. If your definition of success involved hoarding resources, hoarding wealth, hoarding knowledge, hoarding power, while others in your community suffer the community fractures,
It breaks down.
the success described in this verse is inherently communal. You achieve falah by lifting others alongside you. A farmer doesn't just grow one single stalk of wheat, they cultivate an entire field.
That beautifully dismantles the cutthroat survival of the fittest mentality so prevalent today. We're taught that success is a zero-sum game. For me to win, you have to lose. But the Quranic concept of falah is an ecosystem.
An ecosystem, yes.
If you are standing upon guidance, you are actively working to pull others up onto the platform with you. You spend your wealth to alleviate poverty. You use your knowledge to dispel ignorance. You are a source of mercy in the world. If you are successful but your neighbors are starving and your community is breaking down, your success is a mirage. True ultimate success is when the entire field thrives together under the nurturing care of their Lord.
This verse functions as both a comforting mirror and a rigorous challenge. It is profoundly comforting because it assures us that if we do the hard work of cultivation, the harvest is absolutely guaranteed by the Lord who nurtures us.
Guaranteed.
It doesn't offer empty participation trophies. It establishes a beautiful, demanding standard for human flourishing. It tells us that we are capable of standing on a solid platform elevated above the chaos of our own desires, and that our efforts to live ethically are not in vain.
So if you're listening to this deeply, consider the scale you use to measure your own life. Are you letting the fleeting applause of society define your success? Because if you are, you will spend your entire life exhausted, chasing a mirage that constantly moves.
It never stops, maybe.
It never does. Or are you actively striving for the enduring, fruitful success defined by revelation? Seek the solid ground of guidance that can sustain you through life's inevitable storms. Plant the seeds of integrity today and trust the nurturer to bring the harvest. That's it for this episode of Insights.
If you found this reflection helpful, follow the show and join us next time as we continue verse by verse in the Qur'an.
Until then, take one idea from this verse into your day.